And a very, very welcome to you. This is Tracy van der Schyff, all the way from sunny South Africa. And I'm extremely excited to be chatting to whom I consider a friend and a community member and just everything amazing, Dona Sarkar. Now, Dona, I'm going to just read you a little blip, and I loved it, your bio that we've got on the site, okay? So, software engineer, multi-published author. Look at you, go girl. And owner of fashion brand Prima Donna Studios. I like that. I like that. Dyslexic but dealing. I like that too. And then a believer that tech upskilling is the ultimate equalizer. I fully agree with that. Always ready to get on a plane. Of course, we're even more ready to get on planes these days. Thank you so much for being here with me today, Donna.
Thank you so much for having me. I love that we're having this conversation around ESPC because ESPC is, of course, one of my favorite events. It's when we got to actually hang out once in Copenhagen, was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And now that we've been virtual for like 2 years, it's, but at least we get to talk to each other. At least we get to have this amazing event again. So that makes me.
I just love the excuse to chat to you. Okay. It didn't matter. I said, I've got an excuse to chat to a friend and we're going to do this because we thought that online would just make everything easier, but we got busier, didn't we? And that's quite interesting. I think it's going to lead up to one of the questions I might have for you. So now, Donna, you've always been an incredible inspiration for me. And I know some gazillions of people must be saying this to you. But I do think it's your positive attitude. I mean, I just always get such a good energy off you when I'm around you, and even like digital or online, like now. But also not the traditional techie. Okay, so even though you're obviously very technical, you're not a traditional techie. And I like to think of it that you're not all ones and zeros. I always say that. I'm like not just ones and zeros. There's some color stripes in between and odd shapes. But I'd love you, because maybe some people haven't met you and they don't know about the crazy bits, okay? I'd love you to share a couple of pages out of that incredibly colorful life book of yours just for the audience.
Okay, so first, I started off as your traditional techie. I did study computer science in the US at a place called the University of Michigan. I did get my first tech job right out of college here in Seattle, Washington, for a CRM company called Siebel. That folded. Wasn't my fault, I think. I joined Microsoft soon after, and I've been there since 16 years. And many, many years later, I realized I was really burned out on work, just the day job, just the daily grind of the day job. So I randomly enrolled myself in fashion school one day. Like a proper engineer, I had no plan whatsoever. I said, you know what? I'm sure I can figure this out. So I enrolled myself in fashion school. Unlike you, Tracy, I had no background in sewing, design, art, nothing, zero. And I figured it all out while going to fashion school on the side, nights and weekends, while doing engineering by day. And it's been this amazingly fun outlet because I get to design all these beautiful things for, various speaking gigs and all of my customers all over the world. So it's just one of those things where people don't understand how things intersect and relate to each other, because entrepreneurship is entrepreneurship. Whether you're starting a fashion line or you're being an entrepreneur within your own organization, coming up with ideas from scratch, coming up with prototypes, co-creating them with your customers, and then pitching them to your stakeholders or to your, village elders in your company. Absolutely. It's all kind of. So I feel very fortunate to have had this amazing career, but I am very, very excited to see what the post-pandemic world looks like for both tech, but also fashion.
I agree. And I think so many people mention going back to normal, and I actually don't want to go back to what the old normal was. I think it's a good refresh button for us, and it's a good reboot. I want to go to a new normal, a new way of doing things, and lessons learned, and because I think there's a lot of that in us, for us, and that. But what's interesting for me, just to elaborate again on this first little colorful thing of what you do, is that I obviously never studied. Okay, I didn't have that. I mean, I just started working when I was really young, 14, 15, started working, and then you just do whatever you have to do to buy wine, as I always say. So you become a receptionist and then eventually a bookkeeper, and you do I don't know, wages or something. And I did all these crazy jobs. I had a driving school. I had an art shop. I gave art classes. I designed furniture. I designed kitchens. I built furniture. And eventually SharePoint, as it happens with most of us, came along. And then people will say to me, but how does all of that fit together? I'm like, how do you not see how all of that fits together? For me, it's the perfect combination of skills. And I see all of those things I've done in my life. I see it in what I do every day. For me, it's all life skills that helps me make better decisions when doing SharePoint pages or doing graphics, or it's just so many cool things. So I think you're one of the few, and it's not one of the few though. I think in the beginning of lockdown, what was interesting, I posted a thing on Facebook about who are you outside of tech,
Yeah.
and I was like amazed with how many people came back with doing like real hobbies like we do, like apart from tech, but people just don't normally share it. So that was quite a cool thing for me, definitely.
Yeah. I love that you and I both came at it from different points of view, where you started with just real world stuff like art, furniture, rooms, SharePoint. And I came at it from engineering, writing C++ code, designing stuff, fashion. But we've all arrived in this place where we're both at ESPC, both a part of this tech industry, both doing like very similar jobs. Isn't that just so funny? There's no one path to success. That's when people are like, what's the path to success? I'm like, well, there's probably 7 billion, but here are some that might be interesting for you to know. So I'm so hopeful that this pandemic period has made people realize like you're not going to be always able to make a 5-year plan and execute exactly and it's all going to work out, because in the middle of it will be a global pandemic which will upend everything and then you have to rethink everything. So I love what you said about not a new normal. We're not going back to normal. We're going back to post-pandemic world, which if we don't take the lessons from our previous world and our pandemic world, we'd be fools. So I am very excited to see what we do.
Couldn't agree more.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this brings me to my second question. Now, it's definitely not the first time that we met, because I met you in South Africa on a stage, okay, by the way. I was like looking at
Yes.
this crazy chick talking about like, I don't know, dev stuff. And I'm like, who is this? But at ESPC 18, I actually did an interview with you as well. I so loved it. And we kind of like spoke about the fact that you were awarded 100 most productive people by Fast Company. I mean, that's just crazy. That's crazy. I think I'm one of the top most productive people in the world as well. I just didn't get an award, but I'm convinced of it. Okay, I'm like a super sharpie on being fast at things. But we also spoke about something that I really like that I see you share very often on social media, and that is do the thing, or hashtag do the thing, people, if you want to go and search for that. Yeah. And I'd love you to just tell us a little bit about that approach.
Okay. So do the thing, it sounds so very obvious, but often people need to just hear it. So I believe everybody in the world has some like secret goal or ambition. It might be a secret, it might be something they've told people, something they have not done yet, but they really want to do it, right? So they really want to do it, but they haven't for a variety of reasons. And the usual reasons are I don't have time. I'm super busy with what I'm doing right now. I have other priorities. And what will people say?
Yeah.
And that last one, oh, it gets me. I have to debug into that one and say, which people? And are you really not going to do your thing because of what your high school math teacher will say? But that's really a thing, right? People really get hung up on like, oh, if I do this, what will people say? I said, they're not thinking about you that much because they've got their own thing that they're also not doing that they know they should be doing, right? So I believe everyone in the world should figure out what is the thing they really want to be doing and make a plan to do that thing. Now, that's what I would have said in 2018. For me, now, sometimes doing the thing is not doing anything at all. During this pandemic period,
I love
I've
you. I love you. I just want to say I love you for saying that. Carry on.
during this pandemic period, I really had to take a double, triple, quadruple look at my mental health. And I believe a lot of people have had to do that as well. Because during the past year and a bit, I think we've had like one of the worst mental health crises we've ever seen in definitely our lifetime. And pretty much every single I know has had the situational mental health thing, right? Whether it's a concern or someone in their house or whatever it is. There's nobody who has not been just gripped by anxiety, a bit of depression, just hopelessness. And these are all things that are real. This is not, oh, we feel this way today and it'll pass because we slept. It's real stuff going on in the brains, neuron things, neuroscience stuff, people smarter than me know, but it's a real thing. And pushing ourselves to be more productive while we're facing mental health concerns is not actually healthy. I used to believe that you can outwork your mental health. And that's actually not true. And it's incredibly destructive for me to believe that, but also for me to spread that word.
Yeah.
So I've been a lot more focused on mental health awareness all up, taking care of your needs first, and then worrying about being productive, whether it's for your family, your community, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this year, for the first time, have been telling people to do less things. Like do the thing is figure out what you need today and do that for yourself. Forget about your ambitions or productivity in the world. Figure out what you need to do to get through this year and be a happier version of yourself. So that is what do the thing means to me right now.
I love that. And I think, again, I'd love to just add something to that because I couldn't agree more. I've always been and I don't like the labels. Okay, so let me just call me supercharged, over control, like a little bit of neurotic about some things. Okay, and when before this happened, so Feb, I was still Copenhagen, Italy, like it was still hopping. Like I still had another 5 flights overseas for Microsoft Ignite, and that's after my doctor told me I couldn't get on another aeroplane, I was going to have a stroke. And I said that let me just finish these last 5 Ignite the tours. I promise you, I said that. I flew with a blood pressure monitor. I would monitor every half an hour on the flights. It was hectic, and I truly believe that the world had to stop for me to stop. The best thing for me in my life, I completely adjusted that. So I fully support what you just said there, is that doing the thing isn't always doing things. It's sometimes doing the right thing, which might be not doing a thing,
Right.
I like that.
And it has nothing to do with productivity. It has everything to do with taking care of yourself first so you can be your best self. It's the only way. You are the most important person in your life. You should be the most important person in your life because you are not the most important person in anyone else's life. So I think we have this just social responsibility to ourselves to take care of ourselves first. So then we can move forth and do all the things that we want to do in the world. But it is such a cliche, and I can't believe it's taken me 40 years to realize this, but I did, and I'm very, very happy with this realization. And it's something I'll be carrying forth. It's not like, oh, in September, I'm just going to go back to like productivity mode on. No, right? Some of the practices I've put in place over the last year and a half, I will continue to do because I know that they have kept me in a much better state than I have been in the past.
That's great because change is the only constant. So we got to keep on changing.
Yep. Yep.
Now, and I know that our time's nearly over. It makes me kind of sad. But your session at ESPC 21 this year, and we've kind of led up to it, has all our questions on kind of led up to it, is a burnout begun as a service. I love that. That's your little way of like spinning it in there. But I think I might have to rephrase this. I kind of understand what inspired you to talk about this topic now based on the previous things that you've shared with us. But maybe you could just take a couple of minutes and just give us a sneak preview as to what people can expect from that session.
Yes. So Burnout Begun as a Service is a brand new talk that I just wrote this month. It's May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So I thought it was a very fitting time to sit down and write about this topic that has impacted almost everyone around us.
Mhm.
There is nobody that I know who is not facing either job or life or both burnout. And everyone feels like, oh, burnout is just like a thing we say. I am so burned out. I am so done, etc. But the World Health Organization actually classifies it as an actual job issue. It's as bad as, it's a job safety issue. It's like your ladders aren't secure. It's as bad as that. And it's a real physical condition that affects people. It manifests itself with weird irritability with your colleagues, with just complete and utter, I do not care what we do with this. It does not matter. And a complete and utter lack of passion or confidence and becoming very cynical about your work, saying, why does it matter? It doesn't matter. No one cares about this. No one's going to attend. No one is going to pay attention. Why are we even doing this? And that coming to a person who did not used to be that way, who is usually very passionate, very bubbly, very outgoing, like you and I and all the people in our community, is a sign of burnout. So in my talk, we'll be learning about here are the signs of burnout, both work and life. Here are the causes, because I always love to debug and get to a root cause, right? Because I don't want us to diagnose and solve without understanding what's caused it, because then we can say like, wait, this cause is happening. This burnout's going to happen next.
Mhm.
Then finally, what we can do about it. And I definitely don't have all the answers, but I have a ton of ideas on what people have done, what I have done, what I've made people do, so we can kind of reduce these symptoms of burnout. It's not going to be gone in a day, but I truly believe that systematically we can make progress to reduce burnout once we see the causes. So this is going to be a fairly nerdy talk around burnout. This is not a touchy-feely one. It's going to be debugging the human in terms of root causing this bug and fixing it. So that will be the talk. I hope so many people attend because I think it'll be kind of relevant to what we're all dealing with.
Well, I'm definitely, you're going to see my face in there. I'll be there for sure, because I do think and it's about perspective as well. You know, sometimes letting us talk about things also helps us figure things out, and being vulnerable and being able to share and say, hey, this is happening to me. So I think that already helps a lot of people. And I am looking forward to your session. Now, Donna, I have to say thank you so much, my friend, for hanging out with me. And I love that background. Is that a real background, or is that a photo of a background that's now a background?
We're in Prima Donna Studios, the fashion line. So these are all the projects that have worked, and they're to customers at some point. And these are the things that have not worked. And I try to display them over here because I'm like, you know what? It's really, really important for people to realize for every piece of success that you see, there's 1,000 failures behind it. So I show this in all my talks now. I'm like, here are my successes and here's my failures, my wins and my learns. And here I am right in the middle of them.
I love it, but don't ever forget that sometimes your failures is someone else's success, eh? So we shouldn't be so hard on ourselves. Now, Donna, thank you so much, my sweets, for today. It was so nice to chat with you. And to everyone watching, I hope that you enjoy the conference. I hope that you've had a great time, and definitely hook up for Donna's session as well.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. And a very, very welcome to you. This is Tracy van der Schyff, all the way from sunny South Africa. And I'm so excited to have a friend and a fellow Microsoftie, Stefan Bauer, on the call with me today. And of course, Stefan is an information architect, a consultant, a web designer and developer, office development MVP. I mean, the list is crazy. But for me, the most important thing about Stefan is that he's from Austria, and that, of course, is the birthplace of KTM, right? Stefan?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the most important thing for me, for sure. Now, Stefan, I'm so glad that you are joining me today. Of course, we're both involved this year with ESPC 21 as well.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to your session. And I do have a couple of questions for you today, and just maybe for the audience who doesn't know you, to get to know you a bit better. And I think that'll bring me to my first question. Now, we've known each other a couple of years, and we both love coffee, of course.
Yeah.
We love coffee. So we've had lots of chats and lots of good coffees, and we've had interesting discussions about the UI and UX and design in general. I do think we sit on opposite sides of the table nearly. You know me, I'm a citizen designer, okay? So I do those crazy PowerPoints and these days Paint 3D stuff, which I think gives designers like you gray hairs most probably. But I think there's many people like me out there who can't completely wrap their head around this whole fluent design thing. So although it's difficult to explain concepts that are complicated in a short time, I'm going to put you in the hot seat and say, can you explain fluent design to us, like to the layman's, to the noobs like me out there?
Fluent Design actually from Microsoft is the Microsoft Design language. So this is the design language that they communicate out throughout their websites, throughout their applications and services, also not Microsoft 365, right? So when you open a SharePoint, then this falls exactly the Fluent Design guidelines. And so it gives the user of any of these Microsoft services an idea, hey, I'm using now a Microsoft service because it behaves and works and looks exactly the same way like Microsoft intended it to be.
Okay, it sounds so I had a driving school before. But I know you can laugh at that, but I used to teach people to drive, and for me it sounds like that framework with the rules around the road. You know, what side of the road you're supposed to drive on, what boards and signs do we use to regulate traffic. So it sounds a bit like that. We need
it's a bit like that, and the reason from a design perspective why it's called design language is so you speak to the users and you combine it to new sentences and paragraphs that you talk how you talk in a visual way to the end users.
so it's like a design translator nearly, because there's so many different languages that needs to be conformed and speak to each other, right? I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
Okay. That definitely, I think it helps me understand it a little bit better. I think I'd stay clear. I mean, like I said, the crazy things I've done in Excel and in PowerPoint for SharePoint pages, I should have been put in jail for it. But we'll leave these complicated things up to the experts like you, right?
Thank you. Mhm.
Now, this brings me to my second question to you today, Stefan, and that, of course, and I'm going to use air quotes for this. I've always been incredibly inspired by what you do, okay? Because as I said, we don't always understand what we all do. We have an idea, you know, but I've always been so inspired by it. I've read many of your blogs. I've always loved your blogs. I think you share great guidelines and tips for people on how to achieve things. But if I have to think, and I mean, you know this, going to the internet is like taking a sip from a fire hydrant. So if someone had to go and search for how to get started, they must probably be going to get 1 million results and 700,000 of them are wrong. Okay. So I thought it would be a great idea from a great thought leader as yourself to maybe for anyone who wants to get started in the design side, okay, is there any resources you can point them to, like really people that are getting started? What is a good place for them to start learning and to start reading up from the right source? Because as we know, there's wrong sources as well.
Yeah. Microsoft has a link shortener in place, which is aka.ms.fluentdesign, where they
Okay.
explain a lot about all the design theories and background information, why Windows looks exactly like it looks like, what frameworks are out there for web development, for desktop development, and for application development, if you like, and what are design concepts and the interaction models behind this.
Okay, just
So
repeat
it
that.
gives the complete guideline rule book how to work with Fluent Design.
That definitely. Just repeat that URL for us again, Stefan.
aka.ms/Fluent Design.
That's a great
That's
place
it.
to get started. Any other resources you'd like to maybe mention?
Yeah, especially when you want to get started for SharePoint development, or we use something which is the SharePoint framework. So you can go to aka.ms/SPFX, which is the
Okay.
short term for SharePoint framework development. And then there you will also find guidelines on how to design an application for that runs then in SharePoint or Microsoft Teams or Office add-ins.
Okay, that's a great resource. I think one of the best resources as well we'll get to next. And let's take a look at my third question to you today. And as you might know, there's been a lot of excitement on social media. I've seen a lot of things. I've gone and read up a bit, and I heard about the launch or the making public of something called H2O. Now, I'd love you to really go through that and just I don't know, share some of the insights for us. What can we expect from H2O?
Yeah, so the idea of H2O is go one technical step back, right? When you open up a website, then it always is in HTML and CSS, which are the core fundamental technologies that are used there. So these technologies are also in mind that, or were built with the intention for a regular user to understand a little bit, right? Writing an HTML page is more like writing a Word document, but instead you format your headings and something like that. You have some special keywords that you have to use to write HTML and CSS. So what Microsoft actually at the moment provides for the development in Office 365 especially is a framework which is called React.js, which is more advanced than HTML and CSS in many ways.
Okay.
But this also limits the possibilities that we can do nowadays with Fluent Design. So what I did, or what H2O is, I reverted some of their controls back to simple plain HTML that everybody can use on their website, in Office 365 customizations, in team applications, and so it gives you really it's more like, it's on one hand it's a framework setup, on the other hand it's like a learning platform. How does the HTML, the really plain HTML looks like? How does the design looks like from a CSS perspective? And also gives you some ideas and are working on the documentation. So it's more a learning platform as well for developers that just getting started. And what I also increase there, or add to this H2O platform or H2O framework, a lot of information around accessibility. Because when we build nowadays informations for the web, then we also have to consider that not everybody can see what we actually have on the user interface, but they should also interact with these user interfaces with different ways.
So it's a tool set or a framework that you've put together to help people get started and to understand all the complexities. Sounds like something I should take a look at. I think, oh my word, it definitely gets complicated.
Yeah, and also the problem is HTML and CSS is a real, like I said before, it's a real fundamental technology. So you can use whatever framework you like to build up experiences in Office 365 and SharePoint.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
In specific.
So I went and read, when I saw that coming past, I was quite curious as to what you were up to as well. And in that specific article, where you gave a really good explanation with how it works and what people can expect, I saw that you referred to, I don't know if it's a methodology or philosophy, but atomic design. I'd love you to just maybe share some insights on that.
Yeah, I mean, when we have advanced frameworks like Fluent UI Web, which is actually the web framework that Microsoft provides, they have a lot of ready-made user controls in there, right? Sometimes these controls are really too big. So atomic design is actually gives you a methodology which allows you to define the smallest pieces of a user interface, like say a small button, hyperlink, input fields, and so on and so forth, that you then combine to bigger molecules, right? Okay. So it really has a base idea from chemistry.
Okay.
So you design these individual parts, which are called atoms, which are the smallest building blocks of a user interface. Combine them to bigger ones, to molecules, and then this leads up to organisms. Let's say you have, for example, a complete header of your application, which then contains also molecules and atoms. And this is a really good way to describe or design in future, because it gives a lot of understanding between designers, developers, project manager, and of course you don't just build one solution, but you document whatever you built before in a platform like H2O shows you, so that everybody can refer to, even when you have design projects specifically. So you have a big header on top of your page, then some call it hero, some call it slider. And this is not only, so the atomic design approach is not only a developer or designer approach, so it also gives, because we document everything in HTML there, it gives also a base understanding in the project what terms we used, right? And how exactly this control is named, not only for designer and developers, but also for project manager, for customer, and they also can provide feedback like, I want to have it a little bit darker red, and so it's really more a collaborative design of applications than rather we do it, we build it for you, we ship it, and then you have to live with.
Makes absolute sense. Absolute sense. To finish off our interview, and I really thank you for this, Stefan, I'd like to quote something from that article of yours about H2O. And that was that developers solves problem with code and designers solves problems with design. So for them to meet on a middle ground of a common style guide is crucial. They work better together with respect and their common goal to solve problems. And I really, really like that. So from my side, I want to thank you for your efforts in the community and everything that you do. I'm really looking forward to your session, and for everyone watching, I really hope that we get some time to hang out at ESPC 21,
Hopefully, yeah.
and I do hope that you enjoy the conference.
Thank you.
Thank you.